Welcome BMX fans, the head angle is back after a short hiatus. And if we were going to come back from the dead, we may as well do it with one of the biggest legends of BMX ever, in Eddie Fiola. So I got to say, it's a bit of a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
I never thought the head angle would get to this point, and it's great to have you in Australia.
It's good to be here. Good to be here.
Man, definitely blew my mind when Michael Nealand gave me the call and said, I can get Eddie Fiola for you.
If you were going to talk about BMX, I'm here all day. You know, and I explained to a lot of these guys that when we're at the dinner, if you have a question and you didn't ask me and you left without asking, it's your fault.
Totally, man.
I like it.
Oh, man. Well, I don't know. I want to jump into some, we've got a pretty broad audience, I guess. So we've got, like young dudes, mid-school, sort of 30-year-old guys, and then some of the older guys. So there's a lot of young kids who probably aren't lucky enough to have lived through the years where you were, in your prime. I mean, I didn't start riding till 96.
Gotcha.
I was born in 84, which is, one of your King of the Skatepark years. So, but luckily I'm such a nerd and I love this stuff, man. So, I mean, maybe for a bit of history for some of the younger guys that they don't know. I mean, how did it all start? The journey.
Good question. So, I used to ride skateboards, a little bit of skateboarding here and a little skateboarding there, but, BMX was the way to get from point A to point B because skateboarding just took way too long. And when, you go to your friend's house after school and they're on their bikes and then we find some dirt jumps and, Evel Knievel was the thing back then and we all wanted to jump motorcycles, but all we had was our bicycles and we had to make them look like dirt bikes. And, so now they turned into BMX bikes. So taking our Schwinn Stingray and sticking the single seat and the motocross bars and the mud flaps and all that where, just riding every day. So, and we're outside. We're not on a couch or on YouTube or anything, just riding. So
that's it. So whereabouts did you grow up?
So I grew up in a little town called Bellflower. Okay. It's in California. It's near Long Beach. And
skate park wise, I guess that is the start of the American skate park dream. And where was the closest big bit of concrete?
So the biggest skate park near my house was Lakewood Skate Park. Okay. And, going through high school, I didn't get a car until I was 18. So I rode my bike everywhere. So I didn't fit in with any type of cliques. I wasn't, part of the football team or the wrestling team or the pole vaulting team. I just rode my bike. I was literally the guy that everyone else says, oh, that's that BMX kid, because I was able to talk to some of the teachers to let me bring my bike into class because I didn't want to lock it up.
Yep.
So
yeah, they disappear outside the schoolyard.
Yes.
Yeah, it's man, does that happen everywhere in the world? Damn.
Right. I think so. Definitely had.
Yeah. So Lakewood was my local park, and then after riding it a couple times, and other skate parks would start letting bicycles ride. It was at that point in time where skateboarding was on its decline,
Okay.
and it was going out, and the skate parks understood that, bicycle riders wanted to pay to get into their parks. So they opened it up for the bikes and more to where there was more bikes than skateboarders at one time. But like I said, I rode this park every day after school. And one day, I collected the magazines and read all the magazines, put pictures on the wall. I had Stu Thompson, Greg Hill, Harry Leary, all these magazines up on my wall. But one day, Bob Osborne from BMX Action showed up at this park.
Okay.
That was doing a photo session with, what was his name? Rode for Hutch, Timmy Judge.
The Judge.
The Judge, right? So that big tabletop cross-up.
Yeah, the big one-footed,
That's
juicy
it,
one-foot
right?
table.
So he showed up at my skate park that I rode every day. The day that I didn't bring my bike.
Damn.
The one day. So I I begged and pled with him, pleaded with him that, don't leave. I'm running home to get my bike. And he says, okay, yeah, we'll see what happens. I ran home. I rode my bike back as fast as I could. It was about 5 miles away. So, 10 mile. Yeah, I'm sweating.
Like 10 kilometers?
Yeah, so I'm home. I get back and literally Bob Osborne is putting his backpack back on. He's putting his cameras away and he's walking out the door. I'm going, just 2 minutes, just watch me ride. And I did one run and he started unloading his cameras again. And what was funny is that if you looked at the bicycle motocross action, if you go through some of the years prior to me getting in, everyone has a uniform on. Everyone looked sponsored. Everyone was just a sponsored rider. And I think I was one of the first riders in his magazines without a uniform.
You reckon jeans?
Yeah, I'm rocking jeans.
Boom.
Yeah.
Defining BMX for every generation.
Yes. Yeah. But it was, it kind of went out of his realm, but I liked wearing the uniforms. I wanted to be sponsored. And that's what helped. So that was the start of everything.
So was it all race in the magazines before that?
Yes.
So what was your inspiration to learn tricks in a park? When you couldn't see every trick.
Well, I think it was the skateboarding aspect of it. Okay. So watching the skateboarders doing, and then we're emulating the skateboard tricks. Yep. When they do a tail tap. So that was literally our aerial, but was a tail tap, and then back in. And back in the day, we ran coaster brakes.
Yes.
So a free wheel wasn't, didn't work for us. And plus, we were riding, Skyway tough wheels, and brakes didn't work unless you had a coaster brake. Yeah. It just rolled from there. I mean, as the skateboarders were starting to do little aerials and things like that, which was big for them back in the day, but we figured that on the bike we could go higher and faster. And we had brakes, we could stop, and that's what it was. Is we just went bigger.
Yeah, I mean, talking that time, Tinker Juarez, was he riding your park?
Yes. So there? Tinker was a racer at one time, and he was in the magazines, and seeing that, and again, having Tinker on my wall was a big inspiration.
He was a stylish dude.
Yes, right, and it was just, seeing him back in the day. He was just gnarly BMX racer, just big and buff and fast, and I was just this, kid that came out of high school and was riding my bike. So
were you racing at all? I mean, because that was the only option, I guess.
So yes, I went to the racetrack only because they built jumps that were jumpable, and everything was smooth. So it didn't matter if I got first or I got last, just so long as I got to jump the jumps and ride the track. And I always thought of, well, who are you going to remember? The guy who got first or the guy who did the 360 over the doubles?
That's probably what Todd Lyons' whole race career was riding on.
Backflips over, yes.
I ain't going to win this AA main, but I'll flip it.
Yeah. Hoffman's race career.
Yeah. But Todd's actually won a couple and doing a backflip in the middle.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't want to blame anything on anybody else. So that's why I rode BMX, and that's why I didn't do a lot of the ball sports where, you have a whole football team, and if you did something wrong and we lost the game, we can all blame it on you. But if I fell riding BMX freestyle, I fell because I fell. If I was racing and somebody knocked me down, well, then there's 7 other guys trying to knock me down. Yeah. Freestyle is all about you. Yeah. No one else you can blame.
Yeah. So freestyle kind of starts at your point in time, at that point of view, in a park, learning new tricks.
And nobody was before us other than, so there was Bob Harrow, there was R.L. Osborne, but the tricks that they were doing was the BMX Action Trick Team, and they weren't riding it many skate parks. Even Sue Thompson rode some skate parks, and they have it in some of the book, freestyle and whatever. Yeah. We took it to the next level.
Skate parks weren't cool until you started doing it. I mean, that's it.
But we took it to the next level. And it wasn't that I rode just skate parks. I rode everything. I rode ramps, and I did flatland, and I just rode my bike. And anywhere I could ride my bike, that was it. And flatland, I liked flatland because I didn't have to go to a park.
Yep.
I can go right outside my house and I can do flatland. And I think that's why, when I started riding for GT and we came out with the Performer, that sold so much quicker and so much faster. And it was just an evolution that kids now don't have to go to a BMX track to ride a BMX bike. They could go right out front and do freestyle. So
Bit more accessible for the masses,
Yes.
as opposed to if you haven't got a track in your town, then good luck to you.
What's the purpose of having a race bike?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, going back to the skate influence, I mean, that area in that time, early 80s, the progression in skateboarding was pretty rapid and I guess pretty heavy dudes in that, I guess, those sort of California areas, like heavy influence in a lot of big names that you guys would have probably seen on a daily basis.
I rode with Steve Caballero, Mike McGill, Tony Hawk, Christian Asoy, Mike Smith, Neil Blender. All these guys rode at my local skate park, rode at other skate parks that I rode, and we all got along. And that was the best part, is that we all knew that we were just riding and we're having fun, and we all took turns, and we respected their space. They respected ours. It wasn't a bike thing and it wasn't a skater thing. It was a park thing. So
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I find it kind of weird that if there is a park that doesn't allow bikes in, it's such a weird thing because I guess skate's been such an it's its own thing. And if I want to skate on a corporate ledge, I can do it. And I'm doing my own thing. I'm reinterpreting the landscape. So suddenly, why is there such a rigidity around the thing? It's a weird thing for me.
yeah, it's the newer school kids that are coming in and think that skate is skate and bikes are bikes and we can't mix. And it was, and in like Venice Beach, there's a beautiful skate park, but they don't let bikes ride.
I heard that. Yeah.
So, I mean,
I've seen videos of some of the skaters getting real upset and swearing and screaming and threatening the bike riders and stuff like that. Like dude comes to Venice from the other side of the world, he's from Europe or Australia and sees a skate park, he's going to try ride it.
That's right.
And all these local dudes are like swinging their skateboards at him. It seemed fucking insane.
where I was at the grand opening at the new pipeline.
Okay.
Right. And Malba and Sauber are both there. And they said, well, how come you aren't riding? How come, dude, out of anybody, you should be riding this park because it's pipeline. And they wanted me to ride. And I'm going, I'm just here to watch. I'm here to hang out. And I was talking to Don Hoffman, the son of the owner of Pipeline back in the day. And everything's good. But just to have that knowledge that those guys respected my ability to ride, and it was cool.
So the skate park series back then, when did that kick off?
So it all began with the Lakewood Skate Park.
Okay, started there. Cool.
It started there. Bob Morales started this thing called the ASPA, the American Skate Park Association, and it was a small contest, and it was guys that went to Skate City and Lakewood, and there was a couple other skate parks around, and we just found out there was no pro class. It was an expert and novice and beginner class, and wasn't any pros, but we had a lot of fun, and I just happened to win that contest, and so it turned out. So, but from there, Bob was able to get more and more sponsors for the next one, and then changed the name from ASPA, something like that. Anyhow, went to AFA, the American Freestyle Association, and I'm good friends with Bob, and I knew when the contests were happening, and then Bob had this company, a sticker company also, and then he introduced me to, I think it was Kuwahara back in the day. So it was one of my first sponsors was Kuwahara, and I was able to get a sponsor through Everything Bicycles in Kuwahara, and actually promoted the movie E.T. with that bike. So
was that before they started making a freestyle frame?
Yes. Yeah. We literally rode that E.T. Kuwahara, and
essentially a race bike.
Yeah.
It's definitely a race bike, a short race bike.
Yeah. But Kuwahara had sent us to Japan to promote it, and we were riding around with those little ET dolls duct taped to our handlebars.
Damn.
So
I wanted to put my daughter in a milk crate on my BMX on Halloween when she was little. I was like, I'm gonna dress her up as ET. It's gonna be mental, but never did it. Damn, so ET, like that, I guess, really pushed BMX to a huge audience.
Right. Another reason, you know, where BMX was in the movies, and I was in Japan promoting, you know, the whole thing where they were filming at that time, and I think, you know, Bob Harrow was in the filming of E.T. and a couple other guys from the local area.
The chase scene is good.
The big chase scene, and made a lot of people think and want to ride a bike at that point in time, you know.
Yeah, sure.
But, you know, trying to make a bike fly for so far didn't really happen. So when Rad did come out and it was actually tricks that you could possibly do, that hooked a lot more people.
Definitely. So I guess we're always going to get to Rad. Like there was no way we're going to avoid that. But I mean,
that's a big.
I mean, you'd been leading.
There's a jump from there to there.
We have really skipped a few years here.
Yeah.
I mean, but
hey, you can draw me back in.
Maybe we should. I mean, the skate park series.
Yes.
You know, so that starts getting.
It gets bigger and bigger. So literally, prior to the skate park series, I got a picture in the magazine.
Yeah.
But then
in jeans.
And
the other dude I know is uniform.
Yes. So there's other pictures of other guys in the magazines, like Fred Becker, you know, an old school skate park rider. Fred Becker. Then there was Steve Bennett, and he was doing this bio air Bennett where he's straight up and down and rolling straight into the thing. And the thing that really started the skate park competition was that they put a caption saying, well, who's better, Bennett or Fiola?
Right.
And the next one that
was
Fred
there a
Becker,
photo on each page?
Not on each page, but the prior month, you know, was me, and then the next month was Fred, and the next month was Steve, and so they literally made the competition start.
Right.
And that's when Skate City happened after that.
Okay.
And then the bigger guys and the bigger airs and the cover shots and you know, and then Bob Harrow coming out with his freestyle frame. Which I was sponsored for one day.
For one day.
Did you hear about that one?
Yeah.
Yes,
a whole day. You had to send it back or something crazy?
Well, so Bob had found out that I was going to have a photo session with BMX Plus, and it was going to be like a 6-page spread. So that's a lot of money he's not paying for, right? And it's his bike. Well, he found out that I was going to do a photo session, so he calls me up, says, "Hey, you want to be sponsored by Harrow?" I go, "Really? You're going to give me a bike and give me a full uniform and a whole nine, a helmet and everything?" And I do the photo session, and the next day he calls up and says, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to need that bike back, but I'll give you it right back. But I need that because it's the only one we have, and it's the prototype, and we need it for photos, for promotion, and all this stuff." And never seen it again.
Welcome to startup companies.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Was that their very first frame? Like they hadn't released
they haven't released anything. That was their first frame, as far as I knew. And that's why they needed it back so bad, is because that was the only one they had. Yeah. And I wrote it, and I still had the uniform, and I still had, you know, the helmet and the gloves and everything. And that's when he said, "Oh, you'll get it back." So I was riding a Torker prior to that, which was rode the exact same way the Harrow did. So the next contest that I entered I was in Harrow, and I got a cover.
Damn.
Right? So I got a cover, which you can't buy. So there's
I couldn't find that cover.
Right? So it's 1982 something, you know, but I got a couple covers.
That's it. I found a few. If we go back to the comps, so skate park comps change with Bob Morales running the AFA, and then the velodromes comps start happening, and the quarter pipes. How was the transition from?
Right. So when the very first freestyle competition started, you know, depending on where it was at, depending on what type of what's the word I'm looking for? You had freestyle and ramps, and you had to do them all. Yeah. So you did flatland, you did quarter pipe, kick turn ramp, and skate park all at the same time. Okay. So not at the same time, but in that same day. Yeah. And that was freestyle.
Oh, what, you'd go to a different venue for the skate park?
No, so there was a skate park competition at Pipeline, and then right outside Pipeline, we set up quarter pipe and a kick turn ramp.
I never knew this.
So we did a quarter pipe kick turn flatland routine.
Yeah, gotcha.
And the points is added up.
Added up. So
Yeah, right.
so you know, I won the skate park, won the quarter pipe, kick turn, flatland, all around. Happy go lucky.
I guess the most famous, I mean, like footage and photos, all the pipeline comp stuff. You know,
Right.
how, you YouTube King of the Skate Parks, and it's always that awesome pipeline footage of you just destroying it.
Yeah.
I guess that's what we all flash back to. I mean, I wasn't there. I was 1 year
But
old.
you could feel like
Yeah.
you were there.
But you know, I watched some of it again recently. I remember I had an early GT tape when I first started
Right.
riding and seeing all that, and seeing the pipeline thing. This skate park is ridiculous. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. And like,
Yeah.
you know, and I watched it again today, and you know, obviously the bikes being, I guess, lack of a better term, primitive.
Yes.
And you know, obviously
And doing what we did on those bikes
Is-
back then. Yeah.
ridiculous and mega respect.
Mega respect.
Thank
But
you.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
obviously Skyway mags being heavy, low PSI, watching you carve, you know, like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the full pipe, and then get on the gas and start pedaling before you're even at the bottom of the transition and sprinting down to that deep end.
10-foot transition, then above the fence, big air,
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
8. My highest air out of that, not with Skyways, but highest air is about 10 feet out. So
well,
Now I want to talk about that. You did go bigger probably than everyone else there,
There's-
but
there's-
you were running bigger wheels than everyone else.
So the reason for those, they weren't really bigger wheels, but they were 20-inch rims
21 3/8?
by 1 3/8.
Yeah.
So the 1 3/8, and like you said, the Skyways, you could only put like 40, 45 PSI in them.
Flexing everywhere.
And flexing everywhere, that squish on the frame. So when I went to that 21-inch or 20 by 1 3/8, you could put 90
Yeah,
PSI.
you could. Yeah.
Right? And it was so much faster, so much smoother, so much easier. You know, and I tried, believe me, I tried a couple different things to try to figure out how to get higher or how to keep my momentum going better. And I literally, one of the times I actually stuck water inside my wheels.
Really?
Yeah, I aired them up with water instead of air, and just so that I can have, as I was rolling down the skate park, I was rotating the water mass. And so when I'd go up for an air, that would still spin, and I'd hit my brakes, and that water would still be spinning inside my thing. So when I let my brakes go, it would start back up and
Accelerate
roll back,
the wheels.
accelerate the
Are you
wheels.
serious?
Yeah, it didn't work. But
didn't work.
it was an
I love this.
idea that I had that I thought would work, and that was the concept. So
You needed urethane tires so you could be
so
just hard as.
well, if we had 110 psi tires back in the day on our 20-inch wheels,
Yeah.
it'd be great.
Yeah.
But we didn't know any better.
But you got close with the 21 3/8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
and I guess, that's essentially the wheels are on little kids' race bikes.
Yes.
I mean,
Well, by the time I got to that 20 by 1 3/8, it's not a 21-inch wheel, 20 by 1 3/8.
Yeah.
Anyhow, you know, I had gotten really smooth and landing smooth and not hanging up, and I wasn't breaking bikes, and it just, so I could ride those nice skinny wheels. But that frame, I still have.
Okay.
That frame was custom built by Gary Turner.
Damn.
So it's made out of a thinner wall tubing.
Yeah.
The standing platform isn't that big platform. It's actually reduced and smaller.
That's
so
how it should have been.
it's small just for the skate park.
Yep.
Just for that skate park bike. I rode, because of the rims, I had to run different brakes so that it would have to be closer.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was all custom built. So I still have that bike, and that bike is actually hanging in my stairwell going up to my bedroom. And what it is that on the first platform of my stairwell,
Yeah.
it's exactly 10 feet.
That's awesome.
So that when people come by and see my stuff, I go, stand here. If you were standing at the pipeline and you looked up, that's how high I
That's
got.
you. Yeah.
That's me.
That's awesome.
Now imagine falling 10 feet past you now. That's 20 feet down.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. No one else in the bike industry has gone down that path.
Well, I don't think they need to, because of the tires being, you know, the
Well, double wall rims, I think, changed it. You
Yeah.
know, I think that was it.
rolling
And then good tires,
resistance,
yeah.
110 PSI tires, and I don't even like going to 110.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
60,
harsh.
80. That's my
22-inch rims have come out, though. Like,
Yes.
I mean, that's made
Right.
a difference.
Well, I came out with a 26-inch dirt jumper.
Yes, right.
and I'm running 80 psi tires, and I'm riding the skate parks with this thing, and it's literally effortless.
It works.
It's effortless.
Yeah.
It's so smooth, but it's built as if it feels like the seat, the same spot that my 20 inch is. The handlebars feel like my 20 inch, and it's just big wheels. So.
You've had a big part. You've put a lot of energy from your experience into designing bikes. I guess nowadays, of course, but back in the day.
So
what was your first experience with building?
So back in the day, it was Bob Morales and myself, and we were trying to do a freestyle bike, and we got into spinning the handlebars around and stuff like that, but we didn't know anything at this point in time about the POTS mod. We had ideas, but I had friends who had redline bikes, which the head tube and the bottom frame tube came close, right?
Yeah.
And then they had that
little gusset piece.
The gusset piece. So that literally made the same type of design as if the Performer, right? But having that flat piece, you were able to spin the handlebars all the way around with the MX 1000 brakes.
Yes, with the adjuster on even.
Even with the adjuster on the top, so you could spin it around. So when I went to Gary Turner to ask him about, well, what if we do this bend and then down? He says, it's going to break. It's going to break. If you can't put a bend in a frame, because he's always had straight frames. Yeah. I said, well, I had a Schwinn Stingray for the longest time, which was around, and I never broke that.
Our handlebars have been bent.
Right?
What's going on? What's going on, Gary?
Yeah, let's try it out.
He's just grumpy, isn't he? I heard he's grumpy.
He's a nice guy. He's the biggest teddy bear. But he'll look like that. Never mind. He looks like he'd just rip your head off and shit on your neck, Anyhow, he did it. He welded it up, and he says, okay, well, you're the one testing it out. Yep. So we did, and I never broke anything from there. But then again, I landed smooth and was riding, as a professional. But I had found out later on that they had put, little rings, or the first ones didn't have the rings around the headsets. Okay. Right. So there were other people who were landing a little bit hard and flaring out the bottom piece where they would just, so these little rings were actually pressed on.
Were they? I always thought that was machined.
They were never welded on. They weren't machined. They were just pressed on.
I actually remember a friend of mine's came apart.
Yeah.
Yes, now it makes sense.
Right?
I just thought it just fell to bits, but it wasn't even connected. It wasn't even welded on.
So that was another.
Held it together.
Yeah. So those are things that we were trying to figure out. And then Bob Morales designed the platform above the seat tube.
Yeah.
And we wanted, because we were so used to riding the Torquers and riding a Haro and figuring it out and having fun. But this was the best all around bike, and nobody else had done anything. And then we were, GT was the pioneers of doing this. Yep. And then once GT did it, and Haro and Torquer were kind of there. But once GT did it, then all these other manufacturers started coming in, and everybody. And I tell people today is that, GT was the pioneers and the locomotive of this train that everybody else jumped on.
Yep.
Right. I can't say about what they're doing now, but
they've been bought and sold, I'm sure, a few times now.
Yeah.
Okay, so aside bike design, like any parts you had your name on, or you had a stamp of
nothing with my name on it. When we helped design this frame for GT, they eventually did a world tour Eddie Fiola model, and it was a handshake with Richard Long. Richard Long was the other owner of GT. Gary Turner would build the bikes, and Rich Long was the guy selling the bikes. So between the both of them, it was a perfect company. I had mentioned to somebody at one time while we were at a bike shop that, it'd be so much nicer if we could just spin the bars with the, if we had a hole somehow through this bolt. I was at the bike shop was the Bicycle Source.
Okay.
And
that was the mail order place for Australia back in the day.
Right. Yeah. So one of the owners at the Bicycle Source was Steve Potts. Steve Potts' brother was Mike Buff.
Really?
Yes. Wow. So Steve Potts either had a machine shop or knew how to do something, and he took this and ran with it and made it, and it worked out perfect.
Gotcha.
So loose lips sink ships.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Well,
so I pretty much gave it away, but
Yeah.
it revolutionized the industry.
It did.
And then once the gyro came out, through Brian Skura.
Yeah. The rotor doesn't count. It doesn't even get a
the
mention.
ACS it's
Kill
just
that
a
thing.
big it was a bad idea, hard to get nowadays.
Yeah.
But the gyro and Brian Skura was telling me the other, how he came up with the idea and how he, made some designs and how he had to sell his house and sell his car and live in the
Damn.
garage just to get the patent on this thing.
dedication.
And he did. It was dedication. He was full on the whole way. But like I said, that helped revolutionize the freestyle age. And then you got to think about that let's just say he got $1 for each one that was sold to every bike built from there on
It's
in.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's
So.
ridiculous. Now, the only thing I have issue with the POTS mod is I don't know how many I cracked tightening them up. And I went back to running a normal one without a hole in it. Just
The
not running
wedge?
front
Cracking
brakes.
the wedge?
The wedge would crack.
Right.
You'd crank it up tight.
There's not a lot of meat on there, I guess.
Right.
It was
so
too thin.
So Brian Skura actually came up with a separate bolt. I don't know if you guys ever knew about this one, but he came out with this SST bolt.
Oh, years and years later.
Not much
No,
later.
really?
No, because he knew and heard about the bolts breaking and he explained this to me, that the POTS mod bolt was machine threaded and
Yeah, okay.
so meat was coming off of that to make the threads.
Yes.
It was just a normal chromoly bolt and the things were going on where the one that Brian Skura made was cold rolled,
Right.
heat treated, all done. You could not break this.
That's-
It was, yeah. So if you knew about it, then that's the one you'd have.
But A-Head came out and
Yeah.
it's all history. Yeah.
I guess S&M had the Wedgie Jackson.
Yep.
Wedgie
Wedgie Jackson.
The long wedge on the redneck.
Yes.
Later down the line, there's a lot more
Yeah.
meat on that one, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so many things in your history of growing up, and riding. Bikes aren't as good as today. I'll have to say that. So I'm quite amazed that this kind of stuff happened. Like, on covers of magazines.
Oh yeah. No, the dropouts on some of these frames.
They're no thicker than that.
No.
Paper thin dropouts.
Yeah, paper thin dropouts, but we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
We didn't know any better. So we wrote it and we did it and we made it work.
Yeah.
If something started to break, then that's when we fixed it. But for a long time, everything was working.
If you smooth it, all works.
Right.
Guess I
And
wasn't smooth.
so somebody had asked me, well, what kind of bikes did you break and what parts did you break? And I told them, once I was sponsored by GT.
GTs didn't break.
Well, here's the thing is that I didn't know if they broke or not because maybe it wasn't about, because I've heard other guys breaking bikes and breaking GTs, but because GT gave me a new bike every time I scratched a bike, I'd get a new bike because
The truth comes out.
I was pretty much a poster child.
Yes.
And, they wanted, if a kid is going to see me ride a bike, they're going to see me ride a brand spanking new bike and it's going to look clean. It's going to look like it just came out of the showroom floor. And that's what it did. So I don't think I had enough time on a bike to break it
Yeah.
and wear it out, and I rode a little bit on the smoother side.
Yeah, definitely.
So-
it's a good reason to be smooth.
Right.
Yeah.
So good reason why I didn't break a bike because I always had a new one. My neighbors had new bikes and I didn't know any better. I didn't know about eBay and stuff like that. So when I was getting a new bike, why would I save it? My neighbors have a new bike. My cousins had a new bike. Everybody had a new bike.
When you get one every 7 minutes,
That's
you got to
it. Right.
pass them on to
I can't if I kept every single bike that I was given, first I'd be a millionaire right now, and I wouldn't have any room in my garage.
That's it. I mean, me as a kid, growing up on magazines and videos and seeing you ride as a kid, keeping a clean bike like you're talking about now, I understand. And keeping my bike clean, I could do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you kept all your uniforms clean. Like,
Right.
You're on covers in white stuff. I'm like, how do you ride in white stuff? That's ridiculous.
Again, 7 uniforms.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yellow, white, black, white, red, everything. We had all the colors. And GT, GT didn't exactly like that I changed colors all the time, because when it did get in the magazine, well, then now
They
the
need to
kids,
stock.
Now they need to stock that color.
Yeah, right.
Damn it, you're riding a white bike. Now we're coming out with white bikes.
I think I was painting my bike white about
or
then.
yellow or red or chrome. And
Also, Kip said in his podcast that he was looking for the black uniform,
Oh man,
and that was
perfect.
You had
was
that, and
metal.
that wasn't available. That was
No.
like,
no, was not available. And there's another, I don't think they ever came out with a candy apple red one either.
Right.
So
Yeah, okay. Well, talking red, it kind of fits in. There was a red uniform in the movie Rat. Now, and I hear rumors that the movie is based on your life.
it's loosely based off of my life.
I never
loosely,
knew this.
Yeah, so it's loosely based off of my life, and literally, I had one of the script writers come to my house with Hal Needham, and they came and they talked to me and they talked to my mom and they wanted to know some information about BMX, and they seen the magazines and they were building the script.
Because BMX is just blowing up
Yes.
in every way, shape, or form.
Right. So they wanted to build this thing, and after Hal Needham had done Smoking the Bandit and all these other movies, that he was going to do the movie Rad as a director, producer, and then Talia Shire. I think this was her very first production as Talia Films.
She ends up doing Rocky, doesn't she?
Yep, she ends up. Well, she was
No,
doing.
she's Rocky's wife.
She's Adrian. She's
Yes.
Adrian. So
Adrian.
yeah, yeah. So then she goes and does this. This is her first production under her Talia Films, and after doing Rocky, she had some money to play with, and
Not bad.
why not do it? So
Yeah.
then she actually owns the rights
Okay.
to the movie.
Gotcha. So from a script, like they had already written the script for Rad when
So
they talked to you? Or?
by the time they talked to me, they just had an idea and they were talking about doing something, and they showed me some designs, and they had heard about Jose doing a backflip, and they were doing this, and they told me, what if you come up this way and you land and you cut the corner and you were able to do a backflip? I'm going, well, that's not going to happen. But they had a guy that could do that. So, and then they asked me about my life, and my dad had passed away before I started riding, and anything I just wanted to ride my bike, and I was breaking bones, and not caring about any schoolwork.
And you're winning comps at your local skate park.
Right. So then all of a sudden, I was riding for GT, and this production company calls up and says, hey, we'd like you to be in this movie, and you're going to be the stunt double for this guy. Well, I found out they actually had hired me already. Well, they had assumed that they were going to hire me.
Yeah.
And so they had to find somebody that looked like me. So they literally darkened Crew's hair, Bill Allen's hair, to make it look more like
Bill
mine.
Allen was cast to be you.
Yes.
Instead
he's
of-
my acting double.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
How many movies get done like that?
No.
Mission Impossible, I guess.
Right.
It's about Tom Cruise's life.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that. The magic of Hollywood.
Right.
Can you still hold that over him? Be like, Bill, you still owe me.
Yeah. It's nothing against Bill, but I think I have more film credits than he does.
Maybe more screen presence as
Yes.
well. Yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah. If you take that movie and actually put in just BMX and then you just put him in, I think I've got more screen time
reckon you
just
would.
on the movie.
Did
Plus-
you ride over the logs?
Yes, I did.
I mean, in the
Yeah.
woodyard?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So
I guess you were also brought on. You were in the film playing yourself in the riding part.
yes.
Then you're also the stunt double for
Crew.
and you also did some for Laurie. Was
Yes,
it?
I got into her pants
Excellent.
for
Literally?
literally, and I put on her shirt, and the scene where it was who's doing all this number one stuff? What's all this number one stuff on your plate? And he's self-explanatory. So she rides off, and now that's Martin Aprio and myself,
Damn,
and
that's cool.
we're riding around
Yeah.
in the park. But there's a scene where Lori is riding around one of the trees.
Yep.
What the scene that you don't get to see is her when she's doing it. She's pedaling around this corner, and she's leaning at the same time and pedaling because she didn't know.
She clipped the pedal?
She clipped the pedal and went over the bars, and she like a sack of potatoes, right to the ground. So we
She's just
explained-
become infinitely cooler now.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So she did it. She took it to the ground, and she
get
got
back up and did
yes,
it?
Yes, she did. She got
She's
back up.
badass.
We explained it. Don't pedal so much, or don't lean so much. Turn more of it. and then she did it. So and then it was Martin and I that jumped into the water. Yeah. So earlier that day, that little lake or stream had ice on it.
You're up in Canada, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Calgary.
First time I went to Canada, I went to that town to go and ride along the river to the soundtrack, and I had the John Farnham song because you know the guy who wrote the soundtracks, an Australian dude.
Yes.
And he doesn't really admit in Australia that that's his music. He tries to push it aside.
Right.
And it's his only good music he's ever done.
Yeah.
Ever.
And there's a couple of remakes of hardcore.
Yes.
That sounds good.
Yes.
Right.
There's a lot of Australian music in Rad. Semi and Angels, a Melbourne band.
Yep.
And we got John Farnham. I don't know what the other music is in the movie.
I think John knows the rest of the numbers in it. But.
See, I mean, John Farnham keeps doing his farewell tour, and it's like, why don't you just come back and just do the Rad soundtrack, and I'll go. We'll get at least 40 people to go.
Yeah.
Oh, can you
Maybe
imagine
55?
if he did that, and then we had some ramps out?
How good would that be? We should do it at a Vans Comp at Huntington or something.
Farnsey farewell tour.
Yeah.
Version,
Right, yeah.
Version
Yeah,
43.
playing the Rad soundtrack.
Hey, if anybody's out
They
there,
should have done it at Hell Track.
Yes.
When they rebuilt the track.
Oh, so did you see any of that?
I did. Yeah. Haka killing it.
Well, it was Dylan Stark.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Dylan Stark.
The
I mean,
gap,
like
the transfer.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, as the qualifying race, he backflips where there's supposed to be a backflip in the race. In the movie, he backflips and passes so that he could qualify.
Yeah, that's it.
So he qualifies, and then
Literally relived the movie.
Then after he qualifies, there's one last race because all these other qualifiers, and the very last section of the race, there's two guys in front of him. They go up the step up the waterfall,
Cliffhanger.
the cliffhanger, and they go up. And as they go up, he transfers over a 20-foot distance one way and then a 20-foot distance deep, and then literally lands in front of the first place guy, and then comes in first place, crosses the finish line.
And I hope someone yelled, "Give it to Jones" when he crossed the finish line.
Right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, somebody might have said it, but you couldn't have done it any better. It was a picture perfect right out of the movie. So
who designed the original Hell Track?
I'm gonna. No, it was not myself. It was not myself. It was Hal Needham. He just tried to make it, the best of both worlds, and he knew a little bit about the skate parks, and he knew a little about racing, and a BMX starting track was this, so we'll make it like this, and that was not something that anybody did.
Yeah,
we had to stick a ladder up against the wall and go up 10 steps and then drop in 1 footer, right? And then go up in a couple more and then step in. It took us a little while to get to the top and actually, do it on our own. And I think Jose Yanez, the guy that did backflip, he rolled in first, but he didn't make it. So
straight over.
He rolled in, and when he got to the bottom, he was leaning too far forward and did a front flip, rolled it all on the ground. But this guy was, tough as nails. Gotcha. He got back up and he did it again. So his second time down, he leaned back. So literally almost a backflip, but on the ground, and just over rotated on the bottom. The first guy to actually make it from the top to roll in was Beetle Rosecrans.
Okay.
So
from Honolulu.
From Honolulu.
Yes.
Yep. And his dad, Everett Rosecrans, just got inducted in the the USA BMX Hall of Fame.
Damn.
He's the Vans dude, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So the movie, I mean, in my recollection of that movie, which I probably watched a million times, the bits that are worn out on the tape at the start, the pipeline section, and then the credits at the end. And then also the qualifying race next to the river, because I just love that for some reason. Who took the crash over the roots?
So that was me.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now,
What's funny?
That's heavy. That's a legit.
99.9% of the crashes on that movie
are legit.
The only ones that aren't legit are the Mike Miranda,
of course,
crashes off the one berm and then off the cliffhanger section. Yeah. But all the other crashes where you see him crashing off of the spoon, off the kicks bowl, some guy broke his thumb and the other guy broke his nose, and it was on accident and nobody was meant to do that. When I crashed coming down qualifying track. I just didn't see a tree stump.
Yep.
And I just hit this tree stump and went over the bars. And when I landed back inside the trail, I got hit by another guy. And then
It's ping pong.
Yes.
It's
so I
heavy.
got knocked out after that. And then
Really?
So I got knocked out. They stopped the race. They stopped filming. They,
The hockey helmet didn't protect you.
Right. We got some gouges out of that thing.
Cooper helmets, right?
Yeah, that Cooper SK100. So they woke me back up. They had smelling salts, the whole nine. I took some Advil or Tylenol or whatever it was, and about 20 minutes of stop time, and said, "All right, ready to go, good to go." And so
Thunder in
pretty
your
much-
heart.
pretty much rolled out of the bush and then started racing again.
Great
So,
stuff. I like it.
Yeah.
Man, you bring it, like the magic of Hollywood is real.
And the weird thing is,
Canada.
I mean, I've watched that qualifying race because I didn't see that till 96. It was like 10 years after it came out. That was one of the first videos I ever really saw. And I just started racing BMX.
okay.
So like the qualifying racing, like sprinting your tits off and, all that stuff really spoke to me.
Yeah.
But hearing that story of you being crew, like playing Crew Jones's rider and crashing in that scene, and then flashing back to moments earlier in the film when you're on the start line and they're scanning across all the riders, and then mention they obviously go, here, Bart Taylor, blah, blah. But there's you with your black Mohawk helmet.
Yeah.
And it's just tripping me out
So
thinking
good.
about you were in that crash, and then you're also at the start.
Right. Yeah. So anytime it's kind of like Superman, right? Anytime
like
you
Superman.
see, Clark Kent, you don't see Superman. And anytime you
Yes.
see, Crew Jones, you don't see me. It's
Yeah,
just
there you go.
It just works out that
Yeah.
way. Anytime in any of the races, but it jumping back and forth, I doubled a lot of people in that. I even doubled Crew's best friend when the lady was backing out of the driveway.
Yes.
Guy crashes on top of the hood.
Damn.
That was also me. When Crew was at the park learning the backflips, well, his friend was riding the quarter pipe with the black helmet.
Yeah.
That
Was
that
that
was
your
me.
1 foot table?
Yes.
That was
Yes.
bitching.
That's
That
a
was
pretty,
awesome.
So,
defining 1 foot table.
So, and then, in that particular scene, it's funny is that I double that guy and then I'm down and then they put the actor in and then I get back into my clothes. And then there's a section where they said they, need the mattresses off the backflip thing. And now I'm moving the mattresses in the movie as myself.
Yep.
So I'm in it quite a few times.
Yeah,
But during the qualifying race, what was funny is I'm racing. Not racing. I'm in the race with all these BMX racers. There's some Scott Clark,
Heavy
and
hitters, yeah.
heavy hitters, and these guys are fast, and I'm not that fast. So literally, we had these guys scrubbing speed, riding with their brakes on, so that I could be out in front.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Slow
But
down
they-
for Eddie for the shot.
That was the shot. That
None of
was
those guys can
exact-
jump properly, so
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Speed jumpers. No, biggest question for Rad from me with you.
Yeah.
Who was the girl who was the girlfriend of the twins? Because she was like the icon to me of my whole childhood. That's the hottest woman on the
Oh,
universe.
so was it was
Tiger? Was
it
that her name?
Tiger?
Yeah, I think
Or
so. Yeah, she
there
had,
was
she,
the other
had,
one.
she had the
or
tiger
the other one, right?
permed hair.
Yeah, well, a tiger.
There was the leopard print in the dance scene.
Blew my mind.
Yes, I think it was a leopard print one, right? So that
I
was
think it was a leopard print.
so she's still around. She's still hanging out. She does a couple of signings, and
Awesome.
she was at the 25th anniversary. We went to
Gotcha.
Canada, and she was an actress
That's
back
right.
there, and she still had the dress, and it was great. We
That's
had a great
awesome.
time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd break
Yeah.
me.
Yep. And when we did do Hell Track in Texas, Bart Connor came out
Really? That's
and
great.
he
That's
brought the jersey that he wore and he still had it
Okay.
and it still fit him. So I think it's the only thing that fit, the only guy that would fit.
Still
Do you know
fits.
anything about Bart Connor? Do you know about
He's an
Bart?
Olympian, wasn't he?
So
Swimming
he-
or gymnastics?
He is a 6-time gold medalist for the United States.
Fuck.
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics.
Yes, I think I heard the
6-time
gymnastics.
gold medalist.
Wow.
And you know,
Before Rad or after?
before Rad.
Yeah,
before
no
Rad.
shit.
So
Okay.
I don't know. So another thing about this is that 2 weeks prior to filming Rad, he is training and blows his knee out.
Oh.
So he shows up on the set on the first day in crutches with this knee brace on, and he didn't say anything to anybody. Just
Mongoose
showed
is
up.
golden boy.
Yeah, right.
Oh, damn.
So they
Duke Best is pissed.
Duke could be pissed.
if you watch 99% of the movie and he's in it, it's from the waist up.
Really?
Yeah, and that strut he does going over to the girls in the parade scene.
Yeah.
Right. He's got
That's
that.
you.
No. It's that strut. That's because he's limping.
He's limping.
I just thought it was some mean swag.
Yeah,
I
right. So
thought he
yeah,
was
that's swagger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and here's the so what's the other thing is that he is married to Nadia Comaneci.
Really?
Do you know who
She's a
Nadia?
gymnast.
She won a million gold medals, didn't she?
She's got more than he does.
Yeah.
And she's got the perfect 10. Like she was the
Yes,
first
the
one to ever
first.
to be the
Yeah.
perfect 10. So anyhow, they're married. I mean, like that's gymnast right there. That's everything.
There's
There's a,
BMX and gymnastics is weirdly linked with Woodward and Olympics. You know, the fact that BMX is in the Olympics next year
yes.
is kind of linked to Gary from Woodward
Mhm.
because he was all gymnastics and he was
Right.
pushed for Olympics for the last 30 years.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
And also Rob Darden being the
Darden.
Chinese coach now, being paid by the Chinese government to
It's not good.
train gymnasts because they have air awareness
Mm.
Yeah.
to
Yes.
learn how to do tricks on bikes.
Yeah, they're going to hang up and look like kooks. So, okay, well, Olympics then. What do you think about BMX making the Olympics? Not racing so much, but freestyle 2020.
So
Tokyo.
that's the hard part, and with me is that how do you put a number on style?
Well, they did that at the skatepark comps you rode.
Right, but I mean, we all had different styles, and
Yeah,
we
true.
won
Yeah.
as a style. Like
Yeah.
my style might be different than his style, and Mike Dominguez's style, and Brian Blyther's, and we all had different style. But I mean, and it wasn't about how hard the trick was, but how stylish you could
Yes.
make it look.
Yes.
And I claim that I had more style. My tricks weren't as hard. I just had more style,
Yeah.
and I call it a little, I gave it a little bit of Elvis, right? So I had Elvis going on, and that's what won me the competition. Plus, I had the height, and I landed smooth. But in the showmanships, when we did freestyle, it was about being showman, right? It was about entertaining the crowd and doing that. There's other guys I guarantee that were better than I was. But they just didn't have the style like
But
it.
should a trick win a contest? I mean, for me growing up, like a kid could crash. Oh, the tricks need to run. Last trick, go for something huge, pull it and win.
Right.
And that used to frustrate the hell out of me because it's like, well, why?
Yeah. No, to me, that was another thing. I didn't agree upon that either. I just thought that it would be in the Olympics. I don't know how like figure skating. How do you put,
They're basing the judging on things like figure skating.
right. So, I mean, like if you do a backward sow cow or something, well, how do you do that with a backwards
Do you know
540?
how they do that though?
No.
So the ice skater goes, I'm going to do these things in my run.
Mhm.
So the judges know what they're going to do, and then they judge those tricks on how well they do it.
And know
So-
what's coming up.
So they're making the judging similar in BMX. It's a bit looser, but I sat on meetings for it early days with the Australian connection. And it's like, well, how the hell are we going to judge it? Just exactly the same conversation. And it's like, well, we're going to have to break it down. They did it with snowboarding.
Right.
So they know that, okay, well, if a 1080 is worth this much, you have to, if you do a 1080, then you're judging
Right.
that top percentage of how well it was done. And there's points given
the
for that.
more air, the
Yeah.
more points,
Yeah.
and the longer that you're in the air, and
But a big table should still win.
yeah.
Well, the problem with
12 foot out.
with the current level of freestyle in that realm, I guess not necessarily your Vans bowl comp like the FIS and the Olympic UCI stuff. The trick, the sheer numbers of how many whips and spins and flips, like it's almost impossible to have style doing so many things. And you look at someone like maybe Dennis Anderson or Kevin Peraza who go to those comps sometimes, can do a nice tuck no-handed 360 and have like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
Yes.
And then you've got a guy doing a triple backflip or a triple tail whip flip or something.
Yeah.
And the criteria for breaking it down and awarding points to, it gets
Who
How do you-
judges on how hard that particular trick is? I mean,
Van
like,
Homan.
right? Yeah, and are they qualified to be judges? Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
There's a whole process for selecting the judges and then training the judges for the Olympics.
Dave Dillaward's on the
Yeah,
UCI.
Dilly's in there. Yep.
Yeah.
Dilly's
I
in the mix.
I would not.
Arthur
wanna be
Jong's
a
coming
judge.
out next month. So I'm going to talk to him about it too.
Wow.
Yeah, because he's on UCI.
Yeah, right.
He's proper. He's head of the BMX thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's great that it's in the Olympics.
Yeah.
But
would you have shot for the Olympics back in the day? Would it have been? I mean, would you ever thought it
if
would have
I
happened?
was in my prime and I was doing what I was doing back then, yeah, I'd definitely go.
Did you ever think it would get to this point?
No, not even close. Not
It
even
doesn't
close.
seem like BMX is as big now as it was
Right.
when you were in your prime.
So back in the day, we had 7 different BMX magazines.
Yep.
Right. 7.
Yeah.
All based out of California.
Yes.
And then we had all these skate parks, all based out of California. And I rode the skate parks. Good possibility I'm going to be in the magazines.
Yeah.
The amount of people who watched or looked at the magazines, I think, are just more. You know, and then when you just see it on a YouTube video, it's okay. Hey, that's great.
You forget about
Next.
it. You don't remember your first cool clip you saw on Instagram, do
No.
you? But you remember the first magazine.
Yeah.
So you knew magazines pretty inside out. You worked out early, I guess, through Bob, how to get in a magazine.
Not necessarily how to get in the magazine, but once I got in the magazine, I figured out what I was worth, because that way you could put a price on your head. If they have an advertisement, there are people who, Vans and GT and Skyway and all these people have ads in their magazines, and it would cost them money to have these things. And we figured out how much that ad would cost. So now
Is it
if
a
I
couple
got
of $1,000 an ad or something like that?
Well, it's like $3,000 an ad. So if I got in the magazines and I'm using your Skyway Tough Wheels and you're paying me, let's say $500, and I just got a full page color ad, well then I was well worth the money.
Yes.
And if I got more than just one picture in the magazine.
Did
more
you end
power.
up working out contracts with incentive? and
Yes.
Things like that? Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it was a monthly plus a photo incentive.
Okay.
The bad part was, I had grip sponsors, I had seat sponsors, I had pedal sponsors, I had rim sponsors, I had helmet and leathers and shoes and every little bit.
That's cool.
Where I was making when I was making my first amount of money, I was still in high school, and I
That's
was making more than the teachers were making.
Yep.
And I'm going, well, isn't the whole reason I'm in high school is to learn how to make money?
And you finished high school?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well,
By
by
the
the
science
skin.
teacher's like, Eddie, how do I make some cash, man?
Now
Let's
I'm
talk about physics, about going 14 foot out of a crazy vert
Right.
bowl. Like, let's work that out.
Yeah, and then I, when I was in school, I went to Japan. So I mean, like, what better, history lessons can I learn than going there?
Life experience is much
life
more.
experiences. Yeah. So anyhow, I worked it out to where I did homework there and this and that, and I actually paid somebody to do some of the homework.
Yes.
Just like in Rad.
Just like in Rad.
And
Really easy your life.
right? So you but if I was to do it over again, I'd definitely get more into the business aspect of learning from school. But so I have all these sponsors, co-sponsors, and then I get a GT as a sponsor. Well, then GT started to make tires. Well, then I couldn't have a tire sponsor because they made tires. And if I wanted a GT sponsor, then I'm going to have to let my tire sponsor go. So I made a little bit less, but I still had GT as my big sponsor. Then GT made pants. Then GT made jerseys.
And
then
they made
GT
cranks.
made cranks. And they made helmets. And they made
And
chains. And
They even made dino shoes for a while,
they
didn't
made
they?
shoes.
Wow, man.
Couldn't run Vans
and
no
I
more.
couldn't run Vans anymore. So I mean, like, literally, I was a GT poster child that I ran everything
Top to toe.
head to toe.
So GT was a specialized of the
Yes.
80s. Specialized do that with their mountain bikers now. It's like
Right.
you got to wear everything.
I guess, and before that, when you had all these co-sponsors and before GT started making everything, was that why you ran the discs for stickers for product like brand placement?
So on one of the contests that I wanted to win against Brian and Michael and things like that, I was sponsored by Blyther.
Blyther, yep.
Yep. I was running Skyways. I was sponsored by Skyway, and the thing was that the next competition was going to be at Pipeline, and I knew the time and date was going to be hot. Skyways, they just get really flexy.
You
and
pop the
worn.
tires off.
Your
in the
tires
heat.
pop off. You can't put any PSI in the
I did it
tires.
down a hill once. Bombing down a hill, hit the brakes before the bottom to carve a corner.
And they heat up, blow
Tires
it
straight
off
up,
the soft.
just blows off.
So anyhow, I wanted to win. I do almost anything to win.
20 and 138.
No. So what I did is I got some alloys. and I made these wheel covers because I seen.
So that cover on that Freestylin,
Yes.
that guy there.
Yeah, so this is actually afterwards. This is after the fact. This is after there was a different competition that I did it in. And I covered up the wheels with these covers that I made that I had seen speedway racers
Yes.
with sponsors on their thing. So we don't run number plates anymore. Why not put the sponsors on the side of the wheel? Why not put Skyway stickers all over the sides, but run alloys? I thought they would be happy because they got the sponsor
logo.
And
they're not at the
and
comp,
I
are
would
they?
be
They're not
happy
watching.
because I would win the contest because I felt better and faster on them. Well, I won the contest. Skyway didn't like the wheels,
Gotcha.
and I lost the sponsor. So then Uni literally came out, took my idea
With wheel covers.
and made wheel covers.
Damn.
And then I had a co-sponsor through Uni because they made something GT didn't.
Yeah.
And I was able to run them. And then I put stickers on and this. And, unless it was a windy day,
A windy day would suck. Yeah.
a suck. But and the sound that these things would make while you were riding them, all the way back down. So
Damn.
it was cool.
Was it a weird with the extra noise? Was it like your speed reference when you're carving a bowl like pipeline with resonating sound?
Right.
Did it?
It
make
was
your
almost like
pump feel
riding
weird. Like,
yeah,
is it-
it was almost like riding a dirt bike. So you could tell how fast you were going
Yeah, okay.
as you're rolling. But you also remember that we rode. I don't think they're on that tire, but we rode comp 3s at one time, where you could tell how fast you were going just by the knobby sound, right?
And the knob is peeling off the side of the tire.
Bad news. Yeah. First time I tried a 360, a spine was with a comp 3 on the front, and it just folded and washed out. Carving my spin. It was a plywood masonite Vertex. Yeah.
Yes. Good
I
one.
had a comp 3 on the front for some reason, and
But everyone ran them. Everyone ran them.
Well, it's crazy to think that if you go back in time and you go to a national level race, every single person on the gate would have had the same tires.
It's true.
Nowadays, there's a billion tire manufacturers or brands doing tires.
Yeah.
Not-
Well, talking magazines and covers,
Hmm.
I have heard that you ended up dating Bob's daughter, who for me was one of the most influential.
I
I started
dated,
magazines because of this.
right.
stuff,
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
I started dating
Her images,
Wendy
yeah.
Osborne, and it was, we had a relationship, and I was at the magazine a lot, doing photo sessions, and we just got along great. So, I'm sure it didn't hurt.
Did you get more covers because of it? That's rad.
I'm not. That wasn't the plan. I'm sure it wasn't the plan. I'm sure it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
Some guys would say, there are some people out there that say, I didn't do any of this stuff. I didn't deserve any of this.
Deep fake.
Yeah, everything's fake, and because GT
They didn't even have Photoshop
Yeah.
back then.
because GT helped sponsor the company or the competition, that I won because of that. Whatever.
Not because you're 10 foot out.
No,
none
not
of
that I
that.
had any talent.
Landed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you ever, looked at the numbers on the NOR Cup competitions where, I don't know exactly what the numbers were, but I won by a fair amount.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, magazines defined it, I guess, for us out here in Australia. You waited for a magazine to get here, and it defined you for the next 3 months.
Right.
It really did. So, you had a big influence on a lot of Australian riders. So,
and and I just loved riding. I think I was in the right place at the right time. Like I said, the skate parks were there, the magazines were there. I rode the skate parks. I'm gonna get the magazine.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess.
and that brings us to the point of I was able to put a price on my head back in the day. What do the kids get to do today? How do they make any money? I set my life riding bikes. Yeah. I grew up riding bikes, and I was able to make money, being in the magazines and doing shows and doing commercials because of BMX, and then eventually got into, doing the stunt work where I would fall but still ride my bike, and it was riding a bike and falling and still making money riding my bike. Yeah. Kids now, they have it easier because now they have foam pits and they have resi mats and they have all this stuff, and they can learn the new tricks easier. But once you've learned it, what do you do with it? You know,
Instagram, bro.
Instagram.
It's all about those followers.
How many followers do you have to have, and what's that number?
How do you monetize it?
Yeah.
You know, it's quite tricky. You know, I mean, I had a lot of people talk to me when I finished up 2020. And it's like, what? Mike Vockerson said it to me. What said it to me? Asked me, what do I aim for now? If I can't get a cover or I can't get a double-page photo in a magazine, why am I throwing myself down these stairs? And it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's sort of like just a change in attitude almost with the kids now. I mean, we were speaking earlier about it, how when we were growing up, we had magazines, we had posters on the wall. You'd stare at the photo, you'd obsess over the photo, and it was like the pro rider was up on a pedestal.
Right.
And now with Instagram and instant satisfaction, you can pull up a photo and you know, it's here and then it's gone 20 seconds later. Kids don't have posters anymore.
No.
And they can see what their favorite pro rider's having for breakfast on Instagram. It definitely like shatters the special factor a little bit, and there's nothing to shoot for. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, kids are better than they've ever been on bikes.
Sure.
And kids get good so fast.
Yeah.
But where do you put it? Like, what do you do with it? You know, like, I mean, obviously there's a few comps. There's not, the industry's smaller. There's less kids riding compared to, I guess, your prime, you know, when you were at the top of the game.
We did it because we had fun doing it. The kids today, they're doing it because they have fun doing it.
That's true.
But we were able to make a living out of it. You know, all the guys that were on the top, they made living doing shows and competitions and things like that and tours. The bike manufacturers made money. We made money doing, you know, the tours and traveling all over the world, and that was it. But now, where do these guys go? You know, they're still having fun.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they're keeping true to their sport, but you know, that's
Changing time.
it's hard.
Yeah. Well, talking about those tours, especially the GT World Tours, they were proper world tours. Yeah, they
We
were.
went to Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, Ireland, Japan. Then we went all across the United States. We went a lot of places. The only place I didn't come was here to Australia.
Exactly.
So I think that was Josh White and Martin Aprio.
Yep.
They did a tour here. So I think I was already on tour somewhere else at that point in time. So one place I wanted to come, but never made it.
Yeah. So
and I tell people, you know, they've asked me, you know, I've been around the world a couple times and I've been a lot of places, and where would you live? And I said, there's no place like California. No place like California.
Except
California.
Australia.
Well, now that I've been to Australia,
East Coast of Australia is pretty similar.
now I could live here. Oh, I could definitely
A
live
lot of
here.
similarities to California.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. If I jump on a plane, you know, I'll usually check out the water at Bondi first. You get on a plane, you end up, you know, at Venice or Santa Monica.
Right.
The water joins the two countries. It's the same place.
Yeah.
Same
body of
trees,
Right.
same TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same place.
Yeah. It's all
So,
good.
Pro Freestyle Tour.
Yes.
What happened with the double bend? See, that killed that bike for me.
Right. So
This
that
one.
Yeah, right.
Since they
This
put
one
the-
right here.
the
So
extra
that
bend?
was literally, that wasn't even my idea. So the thing is that Martin did more flatland.
Yeah, of course.
And they wanted a different bike. They wanted to, you know, they had to upgrade. They had to do something different, you know, like cars getting better and this and that. So that when they did that S frame, that was for literally more ground freestyle flatland tricks, so that you could stick your foot in between this section here. So because with the Performer, it was a little bit tight.
Yeah.
So I had my frame, you know, the Performer, and Martin had the S bend.
Gotcha.
So
There you go.
you know, and then, you know, GT stopped making the Performer. Do you know this story? The
No.
GT stopped making the Performer for a while. So when I got out of it, and a couple years back, I decided to make a Proformer.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Proformer, I made it look like the Performer.
Excellent.
But I was able to change the geometry. I made all new school. I made it ride like a Colt, a Fit, a Standard.
Awesome.
You know, all the bikes that are out there today, that bike rides exactly like they do, except for it looks old school. Well, I did 250 of those, and then I got a letter from GT. Cease and desist.
Really?
They said it nicely. They
Yeah.
said, well, hey, if you're only going to do a short run and you're doing this and that, we're okay with it, but you're not going to make any more, right?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Does anybody
Because-
who work there who was around back in
No,
the performer
no,
days?
No,
No.
it's owned by Durrell, a Canadian company.
Yeah.
Big
So
multinational.
anyhow, I got this letter saying that, performer and proformer sound a lot alike, and the
30%
bike
different.
looks a lot alike, and this and that. I'm one of those guys that I walked right up to that line, but I didn't cross it.
Yeah.
It was close, but I didn't cross it. But they have lawyers,
Yes.
and I don't.
Yeah.
So I stopped the
Okay.
proformer, and I found another company to make my bike. And we don't call it the proformer anymore. I cut my sticker in half and swapped a side. So now it's a former pro.
Excellent.
Clever.
And they have
Love it.
nothing, not even close.
Yeah.
Is that
So-
through Supercross?
That is through Supercross BMX, Bill Ryan, and he has helped 1,000%. And
Awesome.
rad.
so
You know, I still race a little bit,
Yeah.
so like see their bikes. at the
there's a
track and
Supercross on every gate.
They make nice stuff. man.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and then when they went into the carbon fiber, I went to the not the factory, but where his warehouse is, and he goes, "Oh, you got to see this new bike. Here, grab that box." I grabbed the box, and it's literally it feels like an empty box,
Yeah, carbon's
and
a whole new world.
there's a bike in there, so unbelievable.
I mean, if you had have had that technology back in the 80s, would carbon have been on in
There's a
freestyle bikes? It probably
good-
would have been, wouldn't it?
There's
I
a
really
real
think
good
it would have.
possibility
Yeah.
that you could have made a flat area that you could stand on,
Yeah.
Edged out and molded and perfect and didn't weigh anything
Yep.
and strong.
Yeah.
So
And more space for stickers
more space for
and
stickers.
graphics.
Just solid right across.
Yeah.
A monocoque
Billboard,
type
man.
style, right?
Yeah.
It's the one thing I think BMX lacked, compared to skating, was artwork and graphics on bikes.
Mm.
I don't think bikes have ever got it.
Yeah.
It's just
So
no space.
the difference between bike riders and skateboarders, and you might agree with me here, is that when you buy a skateboard and you're skating it for a long time and you break it, it's like, yeah, I just did that 10-step and I broke the board.
It's like a notch in the belt.
Right? And they go out and they buy the exact same
That's
board and they
correct.
do it
Yeah,
again.
it's true.
If you break a bike, I'm never buying that bike again. No,
It's
I'm gonna
messed
get
up,
another
isn't
Screw
one.
those guys.
Yeah.
Next company.
Next company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had my issues with some brands when I was young, and
Yeah.
some would crack and some would twist. And,
Yeah.
And you knew that, and you wouldn't buy it because of that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's tough, isn't it?
So, and then we, as a professional rider riding for GT, we wore uniforms. We wanted to promote, and who was buying the bikes but the moms and the dads. The kids didn't have any money, so the moms and dads wanted to look at a professional rider.
Yes, it's very true.
And when we had these magazines and everybody wore competition, you could look across the street and see who I'm sponsored by. You could,
Yeah.
and every bike looked different. There was a Hutch, there's a Skyway, there's a Red Line, every bike looked different. You go to a competition today, and everybody's wearing a black shirt or black pants,
Yeah.
and there's not one sticker on a bike. They're going, who do you? No wonder they're not making any
You got to
money.
zoom in
Yeah.
and be like, what frame is that? You
Yeah.
can't even tell.
Yeah.
I mean, that changed from the uniforms and the organized comps into the whole street,
Yeah,
that happened. I mean, it was funny when we put this up.
yeah,
It's got you, and it's got that error.
right. But
But
you
then
got
there's
into
this.
Where you go? Well, who's
And
he
that was the
sponsored by?
change, wasn't
Right,
it? That
right.
was the
We know
real
who it
change.
is. It's Eddie Roman.
Oh,
so,
yes.
yeah. And he
Oh,
lives
yes.
by my house, so I know the
Gotcha.
guy. I took the moonwalk from him.
Gotcha. Really?
So, yes,
his.
it was Eddie Roman's moonwalk,
Yeah,
and
wow.
he did it. I just did it better.
Yeah, a little bit more style.
Sorry, Ed.
Yeah.
So
Damn.
I guess going back to like the image of the professional, as we were just talking about, and advertising in the magazines and stuff like that, and image being a selling point. I mean, this ad behind you, we didn't invent freestyle. We just perfected it.
Yeah.
And that photo is all about attitude. It's less about the bike and more about
Right.
you sitting there and looking like just the man.
sure, and that was the other thing that a lot of the companies figured out is that not only that they made bikes, but they also made, I'm going to say, superheroes. They made us into superheroes, that we were the icons of the sport, and they did image ads. Right, there's a couple of spots where my bike's not even in the shot.
Yes,
While I'm
it's
just
not.
sitting there,
Yeah.
and there's Mike and Woody, just hanging out,
Yeah.
not even riding.
Was there ad agencies involved back then?
There were some ad agencies that were
I
involved.
figured
in,
that because I'd be like, what is this ad? This
right?
is a BMX.
And then and who is in charge of that ad?
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember some guys saying, oh, hey, I used to ride a bike just like you. And I was, when we rode our bikes, I was Eddie Fiola, and this other guy, he was like Josh White, and we always competed against each other. And I was, going this way and he'd go this way. So we were back then superheroes.
Yeah. I mean, the magazines defined it. We didn't know anything else about you other than that you went that big.
Right.
You had those wheels, you wore that helmet, and that was, I guess, when you were a kid, you defined yourself on that.
Right.
Hopefully later on, magazines started doing interviews and we started to know more about the personality behind you, or but even just find out a bit more about the rider.
Yeah.
It took years until I read I think it was in Ride, the Taj Mahalik interview, and suddenly a personality was really pulled out other than just the riding.
Right.
Because we always knew everyone could ride good. But I think the stories now, to be able to sit and talk about those stories from the past, that is much bigger than just the riding alone. It really brings a lot more to the table. And hopefully the kids will have that somehow.
Right, definitely. I mean, I think back to, the first time I ever watched Rad, and I was young. I just started seeing magazines, and I was 10 years behind, because the first magazines I saw were around late 80s, early 90s. This is mid to late 90s I started seeing magazines, and I was like in a time warp, and I was watching all the older stuff. And the first time I saw Rad was the first time I heard your name, or heard, all the dudes on the start line, Travis Tiprays and all the racer guys and Hollywood Mike Miranda. And going back to that shot of you on the start line, the qualifying race with your Mohawk helmet and stuff like that, I remember seeing that, being like, and having no clue who you were, because I'm a kid, and being like, that dude just looks like a tough,
the best dude.
Like, he's like a badass. Like, that guy looks like he'd be the coolest one out there. And then obviously on the start, when they introduce all you guys at the start of the race at the Hell Track finale, and you just do the like the kind of like, yeah. And I was like, that guy fucking rules.
Yep.
And funny. I don't know, like, I think about, like image and, and I guess it reminds me of, again, I wasn't around back then, but you watch like Dogtown and Z-Boys, and they talk about Tony Alva releasing that ad that had zero. It was just him standing there with his arms crossed, looking like just a badass.
Yep.
And it's just like, you see that as a kid, you're like, that rules. Like that's
so
it's awesome.
Now to jump back to some of that Dogtown and Z-Boys, the difference between skateboarders and BMX riders. Skateboarders, they would, and Dogtown and Z-Boys had all this great archives of them skating pools that you're not supposed to be skating, and doing things they weren't supposed to be doing because they had friends who didn't skate but had cameras. And and everywhere that they went, they were able to bring these cameras, or these people who didn't skate. When we rode BMX, we rode a jump spot, then you
didn't have a camera with you.
Nobody brought a camera with us. And nobody's going to take time out to take a picture of me. No, the only person that took a picture of you is your mom, right? And it was out in front of your house. And that's the only, or if you're in a competition, then somebody else had taken a photo while you were competing. But we don't have those really cool archives back in the day, other than some of the old King of the Skate Park competitions. So, but I do know that there's a couple guys that did show up to a lot of these competitions with a big, huge VHS camera on their shoulder. That there's some archives out there somewhere.
Yep.
Because I've seen the cameras, but it's normally somebody's dad that has them. So we just got to find those guys. Bring those out and put those up on YouTube for everyone to see.
We're talking movies and video and all of that. Going forward from Rad, and you stunt doubling for Bill Allen.
Yes.
You ended up in the movie business pretty much full time.
Yeah. So I went from, riding my bike and somebody paying me to ride my bike to somebody paying me to fall off my bike now.
That's pretty cool.
So now and I figured out that not every movie has BMX in it. So
it's
then I had
rare, isn't it?
Right. I had to learn how to do other things. So I had to start driving cars and riding motorcycles and driving boats and doing things and high falls, and then I got into learning the rigging aspect of it. So now I've been in it for the last 20, 25 years, and I'm now working on the rigging and designing of some stunts.
Okay, yeah.
So
what stuff a car's gonna flip or?
So sometimes the the degree angle of a ramp
Yep.
or throwing somebody out of a helicopter
Nice.
and not letting them die and doing a decelerator. And that's something that lets you fall at full speed.
Is that a cardboard box or a pile of cardboard boxes?
No. So we've done that before. But and I've done not to do ads for Southern California Edison, the electric company, and
Right.
so I was climbing this pole, and then I'm supposed to fall and land on these boxes, 40 feet in the air. So anyhow, but a decelerator actually works off a rope and an air cylinder
okay.
and things like that. And these guys fall 4 stories, free fall, and then slow down 2 stories
Quickly at the bottom.
to the bottom, but they don't die. So I've designed a couple of those, and it worked out really well. But I in the movie industry, like I said, I didn't know much other than riding my bike, but I've fallen off my bike many a times so that I knew how to fall.
Yep.
And in a stunt business, if you have a second thought about doing it, you shouldn't be doing it.
You shouldn't be doing it.
Right? When somebody says, okay, we're going to hit you at 20, 25 miles an hour with a car. Great. If you second guess that,
you're going to get hurt. Yeah.
You're going to get hurt.
That's the same as BMX pretty much, isn't it?
Right. You're heading for that jump. You're doing it.
Yeah.
How did you evolve out of being a BMX to doing stunts on a bike into? Was like a slow progression to learning how to do stuff that weren't on a bike, like obviously falling and that sort of stuff. Like, did you just have to someone just say, "Hey, learn how to do this," and you've got this job, or?
So I went from being sponsored and riding in the competitions and being in the magazines to doing more and more TV commercials, and because BMX was still big, but then they were, from BMX, mountain biking became in.
Yep.
So I started doing a lot of my BMX tricks on a mountain bike, still riding a bike, still doing the tricks, just on a bigger bike, still getting paid.
You were a mountain bike cop, weren't you?
I was a mountain bike cop. So that's a good transition, is where they paid me to double a lot of the crew or the cast on this TV show called Pacific Blue. And they were riding mountain bikes, and then they wanted us to do stuff that normally you wouldn't be doing. So we're doing jumping over cop cars and landing on the other side, and then doing 360s and doing backflips. I think I was one of the very first people to do a backflip on a full suspension mountain bike on a TV show. So doing things that they normally wouldn't do, and then crashing into, hot dog carts and going down hills that you wouldn't normally do. They're putting bombs on the back of armored trucks and riding behind them, and then blowing stuff up, and things that we, like I said, we didn't normally do. But from there, I would meet one stunt coordinator and then meet another stunt coordinator, and then they found out that I ride motorcycles. So I've done motorcycle stunts, and then from there, it just evolves from here on.
And it's more money since you go from bikes to motorbikes to cars.
It's not necessarily more money, but it's a harder stunt. So it's a coincidence.
Consequences.
The consequences, and then as I was learning a lot of the rigging aspects, I was working alongside another couple guys that were rigging, and I was learning through them, and they had brought me to
come on this job. And,
bring me on to different jobs, and I literally went to South Africa and worked on Dusk Till Dawn Part 2.
Right.
Yeah, and then from there, I got thrown off a building and then landing on a car, and exploding and catching on fire.
Do you let people know that I used to be the smoothest dude ever? I shouldn't just be hitting the ground. Right.
Hey, there's times where I got hired onto a commercial just because. So this kid, blonde hair, blue eyes, good looking kid, got cast for the part. He is a number 1 BMX racer of the state, and this is what he did. But he was 14 over X, and they needed him to ride this bike and do a little back slap onto a swimming pool, into the swimming pool, water, the whole nine. And he says, "Oh yeah, I can do this. Well, this stunt coordinator knew who I was, and he wasn't real sure who this kid was. And he says, "Well, I'm just going to hire Eddie just in case." Right? Just in case this number 1 kid that says he can do everything can't do it. His whole life, he was racing. his whole life he learned how to stay on two wheels.
Yeah.
He never once landed on his back.
But clipped in as well.
No, not then. Not then. So anyhow, the kid, as he jumps into the swimming pool, just kept on throwing his bike out in front of him because he's scared to land on his back.
Yeah.
But this is what they needed. And, where in a stunt aspect, I know what they want. And I know it's going to hurt a little bit. And I know what they need, but I've done it before. And it's just a flat back land, and you do it once, and hopefully they're happy.
Yeah.
Done deal. So they hired me just in case, and it happened to work out for them because the kid couldn't do it. So
yeah, gotcha. Well, I guess it's lucky you're in California, and they've obviously got a good guild around protecting the stunt people. Because in Australia, in the early years of the Australian film industry, no rules.
Right.
If you look at the original Mad Max, they didn't block the roads off for anything.
Right. People got
an
hurt.
old movie called Stone, an old motorbike movie, just proper stunts on streets in Sydney with no locking down of anything.
Right.
Just broad daylight. Let's film it. It's a different world out here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
BMX Bandits, did that make it to America?
It did make it to America,
Yeah.
and it actually made it onto let's say HBO.
Okay.
And it was on HBO the first time I saw it, and thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, other than the movie Rad.
Yes.
But Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. Her best
hot
role
shot.
ever.
Al
Yeah.
McCall,
Her best role ever.
national treasure.
Right, and it looked good. I mean, the doubling looked really good when she was on the track at the very end of the race.
Yep.
It looked like she was riding around. It looked like her.
Yep.
I don't know if it was or not, but
No, dude, it was a dude.
at the very end, on the BMX track, when they're singing about BMX racing and all this other
the
stuff,
song.
right?
Yeah.
There's a song about it. I heard these guys singing it the other.
You guys know the words? Yeah.
John does.
I think it's got BMX in it.
Yeah. So anyhow, it was a good movie.
Yep.
It was a good movie. I actually liked it. It had a better plot.
Oh, yeah.
We
than
got
Red.
criminals and chasers and
Right.
Shotguns and masks. Point
Yeah.
Break ripped it off.
Right.
You know that.
Right. So, and we literally just got back from that, the Oval where they were riding.
yeah.
Oh, Manly.
Yes.
Yeah, rad.
Rad.
Rad. I mean, bandit.
Bandit.
Yeah, Bandit never got on, did it?
No.
No, it's been yelled at me. Like, as a kid, it was yelled at me out of any car that drove past when you were riding flat, jumping a curb, riding the drain. What do you think you are, BMX Bandit? Yelled at me my whole life, and it just killed me. But in the last few years, if someone yells it at me, it's eternal youth. I don't care anymore. Like,
Awesome.
I've got the fountain of youth. I'm just gonna keep riding this
Well,
thing.
and I tell people that this is my fountain of youth, riding my bike. It's kind of like the movie Tag, right? Where if you see the movie Tag, where if you stop playing the game, you get
It's
old.
over. Yeah.
Right? But if you keep
That's
riding,
so good.
then you're going to stay young. This is our fountain of youth. You're using your hands, your feet. You're thinking of where you're going, what you're doing. You're using every muscle in your body. Unless you're eating too much, then Yes, I'm looking at you.
Well, you think about
or drinking too much.
I mean, what you're 50.
55.
Okay, well,
55.
when I
But I
first
like my food too.
You gotta eat.
Yeah.
Well, I think about when I first started racing, which was 20 something years ago. My dad was about 50, 55, and I actually thought about this back then because there was the guy who ran the club, this is Castle Hill BMX Club. The guy who ran the club's name was Ian Curtis, and he was mid to late 40s, and he rode a cruiser. And then my dad, who's about 5-10 years older than this guy Ian, and I look at my dad, who he was accomplished racing car driver, raced historic sports cars and stuff like that all through the 70s and 80s. But I looked at him. I looked at the track and I thought, my 50-something-year-old dad, there's no way in hell he could get around this track. And I actually got a bit worried, thinking, picturing in my brain of my dad going down the start hill. And I was like, no, I don't want to think about that. That's but what a 50-something-year-old looks like nowadays.
Sure.
I mean, you can think about you or Dennis McCoy still doing 900s on a vert ramp.
And lucky he wears armor because you landed on him at 5 Dog.
I did.
Yeah.
I squashed
Dennis.
McCoy
Squashed Dennis.
by accident. He was trying to take a photo of Ben Pickett, who's probably one of the best riders to ever ridden that skate park, and he climbed into the bowl without announcing it. And he's a short dude.
Right.
He's crouching down at the base of the spine trying to get a photo of Ben doing an alley-oop over the channel. And I drop in and jump the spine, and I'm at the peak, and I just scream, Dennis! And I just plowed into his back. I was way more hurt than he was. But I'm thinking midair, like, shit, I've just ended Dennis McCoy's career.
I know,
Right.
it's a scary
But he's
moment.
tough.
But like you said, and we think about it. I thought about it when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. When I thought of a 50-year-old, I think this guy's got to be, 50-year-old's in a walker or a wheelchair or a cane. There's no way I'm going to be able to ride when I'm 50.
And people told us that you're never going to be able to do anything at 50 because of arthritis. You've got these broken bones and crashing. It's like, shut up.
I think
Quiet.
because of riding, we don't have arthritis.
Exactly.
We're
Exactly.
the Rolling Stone gathers no moss, right? So
With
yeah,
Keith-
Keith
you lose it.
Richards.
right,
Keith Richards doesn't gather any moss.
right. He's still alive.
Exactly.
How is he?
We're not stopping.
He's got a different fan of youth.
Bourbon.
Maybe he's riding bikes in the background.
Right.
Maybe he is, yeah.
Right.
Shredding.
And there's people who you never know that was into BMX.
Mhm.
That it was one of the movies that I worked on was The Hangover.
Okay.
Do you know that story?
Yeah.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know about the story?
What? You go to Vegas?
No. So right. No. So I get hired on as a stunt guy, and my job is literally to just get out of the way of the cop car that's on the sidewalk.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it's a
Yeah.
scene that I'm supposed to do, and they fly me to Vegas, and I'm there with a bunch of other stunt guys, just all stunt guys, to get out of the way. It's supposed to be a near miss of a 25-mile-an-hour car. That 25-mile-an-hour car got changed to a 2-mile-an-hour car.
Okay.
So now they're just driving on the sidewalk. Well, just another stunt guy. I get there on the set, and the PA, the production assistant, comes up to me and says, wardrobe's here, makeup's there. Do you ride bikes or something? I told her, yeah, I ride a little bit. And she goes, well, one of our actors is a huge fan of yours.
This is cool.
I go, really? Well, who would that be? She goes, Ed Helms. And at this point in time, I really didn't know who Ed Helms was, but then found out who he is. I mean, like The Office
Yeah.
and all these other movies that he's really good in. And so anyhow, I didn't think anything of it. I'm on the set. I'm hanging out with all the other stunt guys. They do the scene 3 or 4 times. They have to put film in the camera because they still use it.
She's still shooting film. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So it was good. Or they had to put a new battery in, one of the two. Anyhow, they had to stop and they had to let the actors out. And Ed Helms literally runs over towards me. And he goes, you know that trick that you did in the beginning of Rad where you got the one foot and you swing your leg and you wrap around the front?
Yes.
He literally, from the very beginning of the movie till the end of the movie, he knows it back and forth. He goes, oh, that was so cool, so fun. I had you on my wall, and I had a BMX team, and he had a BMX freestyle team. So Ed Helms was a BMX rider. So anyhow, and so we started talking, and I was explaining to him that we were trying to get the rights to the movie Rad and this and that, and he remembers the movie and all this other stuff. And he goes, the director of this movie knows Talia. He goes to dinner with or breakfast with Talia all the time. So I'm talking to one of the main actors, and now he brings over the director, and I'm just another stunt guy. So all the other stunt guys go, what are they?
Just
what are they
another
doing?
stunt guy.
Just another stunt guy.
I'm
You're
not
like,
quite
I'm
sure
Eddie
I
Fiola,
agree with
bitch.
that. Exactly.
So he comes over and I'm telling him, we're talking about the movie Rad on the movie The Hangover.
Hangover, yeah.
Which was kind of cool.
That's
So
so
anyhow,
good.
he literally takes his phone out. So I'll call Talia right now. I'll get
Yes.
you the rights right now. So he's on the phone. I'm going to get the rights. And she never,
Because it's not released, is it?
it's not released.
Yeah.
It's not legally released. So he calls her and there's no answer. So, and that's literally as far as it got.
You got to chase that up.
Right. So I had heard that she sold the rights to her son. Now her son owns it for like $85. So she literally sold it for whatever the paperwork were costing.
Let's let's chuck in a couple $100 each. And
Go
let's get
fund
this.
me?
Right? Yes, right. Yeah.
Isn't that the thing these days?
So anyhow, she the movie Rad. See that there? Rad. You see that? This is an original from the video rental store that not a lot of people know this, but if you couldn't buy that video. You had to rent it. If you owned it, it's because you never returned it.
Well, no, you borrowed someone else's card, someone else's parents' card, and you borrowed it and you just didn't take it
You
back.
just never took it back. But and then if
Or you
once-
double taped it with the sticky tape.
right, and
You
then
just put a blank one in.
once you rented it, you copied it or tried to, or they anyhow you have it on DVD now.
Yeah.
You know, somebody pirated it off.
Yeah.
So anyhow.
Well, that's I got a shout out to Tim Lynch. I don't know if you ever heard that name. One of Sydney's raddest 90s dude, like mini ramp shredder. He
That was his.
I don't know
tape.
where he got that from, but he gave that to me as a present for the store, and I'll always
That's
be
your tape.
I'll always be thankful.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not getting it back.
That's
Especially Bill signed that when he was over
Right.
the other year. So
you
sorry,
know,
Tim.
I don't know how much time we have, but there's another story about another.
Bring it on.
So I'm working now. I'm doing some stunt safety.
Yeah.
I'm working in LA. I'm working on this float that's supposed to be in a music video, and I have no idea who the artist is, and I'm just working on this thing, and I'm making it safe, and I'm doing the rigging and things, and you know. When we show up on the sets, our names are on this list, that everybody that's on the list is going to be on this thing. And I don't know anybody's name, and I don't know who the artist was. But then I'm working on this boat, and I'm on I'm hammering down something. And in back of me, this, in an English accent, is this guy that's saying, "Is that the flying banana? Is that Eddie Fiola for Flying Banana?" And I look back and it's Robbie Williams.
no
Really?
shit. Banana.
Banana.
Tell me you
Banana.
rode BMX.
He rode BMX. He has a collection. He rides a Hutch Trickstar. He's
Of course
had.
he rides a cut. You have a gold one, wouldn't he?
So
pink
anyhow,
one.
I gotta take a picture. I gotta take. So I got pictures with Robbie Williams and
That's pretty cool.
hanging out. So
Robbie Williams just got exponentially cooler than he was in my eyes, which was
Well, it was in that band Take That, which was the most
Really?
uncool thing ever.
Yeah.
So he's gone
but
back
he
to
rode
neutral.
BMX. That's kind of
he there's pictures of him getting married on his bike,
Oh,
on his
shit.
BMX bike. Yeah, his
That's rad.
wife is in a wedding dress. He's sitting on a Hutch race bike.
dude.
You got to look that up. It's yeah.
Is Mike Miranda there?
No. Yeah.
And he never met with. Has Mike Miranda ever been in any Hollywood movies?
The
How do you get the
only
name?
one. Because he was a showboater. He had that style and
No, he had no style.
no.
I'm saying it.
Got a sweet mustache.
Yeah, the porn mustache.
Yeah. Maybe in the Hollywood porn
A
industry.
word cut.
Not that I know of. That brings me to Annette. Never mind.
Oh, bring it on. Bring it on.
So, really?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do it.
I'm on. Let's go way back and MySpace.
Yes. That's not that far back.
All right. So
We're talking about the 80s. Was that the 80s?
Right? No, it's MySpace, and I get this message from this guy that says, "Hey, you don't remember me, but I rode with you a couple times. My name's Tommy Strata, and I just wanted to, hook, meet and talk up to you and all this other stuff. And I'm kind of in the same industry you are. I'm in the entertainment industry, just not entertainment industry. He went to the other side. His stage name is
The other side.
His stage name is Tommy Gunn.
Yeah.
Okay. Tommy Gunn is like one of 10 guys that are in the whole porn industry. Tommy Gunn is the guy, right?
One of the dudes.
One of the dudes. And now I can't watch any of his films, so because I know him now.
It's too close.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyhow, he's way cool. So he went from BMX to Triple X.
Yes.
And
BMX and Triple X, yes.
right. So
Well, that shit video game.
right.
There was
Triple X
BMX,
BMX.
But the
right?
the best Triple X thing I've ever run into on BMX was, what's his name? Bar Spinner Ryan comes out here for Planet X Games back in the day.
Yeah.
97 or 8.
And we rode the comp, whatever. And then we're out on the Gold Coast and he's freaking out, calling Mola, going, dude, I've got 4X here. It's not even just Triple X. This giant's crazy.
The beer's 4X.
I'm like,
not
it's
3.
just beer, dude. It's
Yeah,
not
right.
porn. Really broke. But he fell off the radar after that. After
Right.
that mission to
Well, he's doing
Australia.
shows.
Yeah,
got
he's still
his-
doing
yeah,
shows.
his
He's got his
last
own
one,
team and doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But anyhow, you never know who you're going to meet and who was
true.
into BMX at one time.
Yeah, it's true.
Shaquille O'Neal was a huge rad fan. Do you know about that story?
No.
Do you want to hear that?
Man,
story?
I want to
know
see
that
him on an
West-
18-inch top tube.
West
BMX.
Coast Choppers
That
had
would
to
be
build him a
epic.
crazy bike. didn't
Yes, they did.
They
They did.
Giant
They did. But
motorcycle thing.
what was funny is that so Mike Miranda and Bart Connor,
Yeah.
they went to this celebrity golf match, and all these other celebrities are at this golf tournament and things like that, and they're on their lunchtime, right? And they're hanging out, and there's all these people, and all of a sudden Shaquille O'Neal walks in the room, and he's just looking around because he can, head and shoulders above the rest, and he's just looking around, and he sees Bart Connor and Mike Miranda sitting over at the table. So I'm like, the guy, Mike Miranda, told the story, and he says it was like the sea split, and Shaquille O'Neal beelined over to Bart Connor and went over to him, dude, you are my favorite and rad, and he shakes his hand.
Shaquille, you've just lost it now.
All right, so
What a man.
amazing.
Bart goes to him and says, I win 6 gold medals for the United States.
No, he thinks
And you
Shaquille
remember me
remembers.
from Rad?
Yes.
And that was the story. So I worked
that's
on
amazing.
I worked on one of the movies with Shaquille O'Neal, and I wanted to hear it from him. So I literally asked him. He says, 100%, love that movie.
Man.
Yeah.
Would have been awesome if you walked in and pushed Mike Miranda aside and said, "You're a nothing next to Bart Taylor."
That's right.
That would have been way
Love
better.
it, man.
But yeah, that's fucking
damn.
incredible.
Well, man, defining moments for you in BMX. Like,
Yeah, defining moments.
Your
Defining
highlight.
moments. I don't know if there's any highlights. I mean, everything was a highlight.
That's
Everything
true.
was new. Everything was awesome.
I mean, not many of us models have that many covers to go, if I got one, I'd be stoked. But,
right. So
it's
I
gotta be
mean,
tricky.
I was in magazines here in the U.S. I was in magazines in Europe. I was in magazines in places in Japan and places like, and there are some magazines I don't even know about. But there was one magazine that I did get into, and it was called New Look.
Okay.
It's a nudie magazine.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah, right. And so there's BMX in this full stripper magazine.
Yes.
But they had BMX in it at one time
Okay.
because in France, I guess
It was big,
just
yeah.
not that big of a deal. Well,
Yeah.
BMX was big, and nude photos were
Yeah.
big, and just
Blyther made it in Face magazine, a real big fashion mag back in the day. And a girlfriend of mine goes, "Do you know this dude?" I'm like, "No, I don't, but that's a sick double page pic." I think it was
Right.
a Spike photo.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa,
Yeah,
BMX,
that's
BMX has made it now because
Right.
it's in fashion, man.
and that's another thing. And like some of the guys from BMX, I mean, Spike Jones,
Yeah.
huge director now,
Yeah.
right?
So
So
didn't you do work in Where the Wild Things Are?
I did work with where the Wild Things were, and also worked on Being John Malkovich.
Was that
That's
Spike as well?
Yes, Spike
Yeah,
Jones,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's
So-
Apartment
Killer movie.
43 in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all
Oh,
the
no
BMX references in all his movies. It's
Right.
nuts.
So,
And they're all there.
but yeah, Spike, and then he did Birth of the Big Air, and Joe Kid on a Stingray, and so
It's a good thing. BMX has got some history.
yeah.
Man. Well, man, I guess on that, thank you for sharing your history
Yeah.
with us on the head
Thanks
angle.
for,
Head Angle, how cool of a name! Who came up with that?
I think that might have been John.
It just popped
Yeah.
around, didn't it?
Yeah, hey, good
We
job.
were going to call it the table.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
right.
another
Yeah,
black
little tabletop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little tabletop and child's
The
play.
head angle works.
Head Angle, I
Everyone
like
bitches
it.
about 75.5, so yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely appreciate it, and yeah, definitely a bit of a mind bender having you sitting here with us. And big shout out to Mick Nealon for organising it. Thanks, dude. Yeah,
Sweet.
what a time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thinking you enjoy the rest of your time in Australia.
Thank you. Australia's awesome. I'd live here in a second.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm moving in.
That's it.
You can stay.
Make some space.